start again. It's a redskin.
Welcome to another episode of Broad Talk. This is a UFC fight prediction, Whittaker 2, and a recap of UFC Fight Night of this past weekend.
Yeah, as well as UFC 251. So let's talk about that first. Obviously, 251, the big event that happened. Masvidal versus Usman was a big deal. Volkanovski versus Holloway, and Jan versus Aldo. What are your impressions on that happened this past a couple weeks ago?
Aldo versus Jan. I was really impressed by Jan. He did exactly what he needed to do, and it went exactly how I thought it would. He's gonna be hard for someone to beat him. That's how I feel about him.
Yeah, for sure.
Volkanovski, Holloway. That was a very controversial fight. I do think Volkanovski won, in my opinion. I have to rewatch the fight. I know there's a lot of fans out there think Holloway won, and they're not wrong. I mean, everybody has their opinion, and saw the fight their own way. I just have to go back and rewatch the fight. For Usman versus Masvidal, Usman did exactly what he needed to do. That was the game plan, and even though I called Masvidal to win that fight, Usman did exactly what he needed to do. I think the 6-day notice for Masvidal affected him. He didn't have the gas in the tank, and I would like to see a rematch in the future, maybe a year or so, and see how Masvidal comes back. But overall, I thought it was a great event. I mean, the pay-per-view buys shows it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I really liked that event. What about you?
For sure. I thought it was a great night of fights. Jan Aldo was a great fight. Volkanovski Holloway was that chess match, and then Usman Aldo a little bit boring because of Usman just clinching and foot stomping and just neutralizing Masvidal. I mean, that's what I expected. So overall, they were a good night of fights. I mean, Andrade versus Namajunas was a great fight too. That was a really great fight. One of the best fights of the year. So I really enjoyed that one as well. And then we also had another title fight this past weekend, which was Figueiredo versus Benavidez. And I mean, it was a foregone conclusion for me. I kind of just expected Figueiredo to take down Benavidez one way or another. The first fight was pretty one-sided. The only reason why there was a rematch was because Figueiredo missed weight. So it was just kind of like, oh, let's just run it again, and maybe Benavidez will do better. But I mean, this time it was just complete from bell to bell, just complete like annihilation. And what would you think about that? What'd you think about Hermanson versus Gastelum? Gastelum got submitted pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was we didn't really get to see too much of Gastelum. I think the fight ended fairly quick, and if that leg lock wouldn't have happened, I mean, who knows what else could have happened. I think Gastelum is a really talented fighter. I think he always brings it, and he's always a top contender in my eyes.
Definitely.
And I don't think this defeat rules him out of the division or anything like that, or a top contender. I think he'll come back, and he'll come back stronger. But as Benavidez and Figueroa, I mean, Benavidez got stomped. That's all I can say.
And, yeah, of course. I mean, I feel for the guy, but I mean, he even said it himself. That was the last title shot he'll get, and I mean, he's still one of the best to ever win a title at the end of the day. But I mean, that sucks. It's a pretty horrible feeling. And then Calvin Kattar, man, looked great. This past Wednesday, I believe, he looked great. That guy's a title contender, and I can see him going for that title. There's a beat fight open my eyes. Yeah, there's a beat fight open my eyes to his talent if he had more time, and I feel like he's improving, and he looked really good against a guy who also looked really good in his own right. So, props to both EA and Kattar. So, all right, now let's look onto this card. So, I'm going to share my screen with you so we can watch this. So first up, we're going to talk about not the whole main card this time, but we will talk about the three main fights, the showcase fights. So we got Fabricio Verdum versus Alexander Gustafsson in heavyweight fight. So this is pretty interesting. Both guys are coming off losses. Obviously, Gus hasn't fought in a while since he lost to I think it was Anthony Smith who submitted him. So I mean, it's pretty crazy because even though he's a light heavyweight, Gustafsson's pretty big. He's almost pretty much bigger than Fabricio in terms of height, reach. So what do you think about this one?
This is going to be a really good fight. I think Alexander Gustafsson has the advantages just because of the height and how he could put on that weight, especially going into heavyweight. As long as he doesn't let himself get taken down and go to the floor with Verdum, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll keep his boxing will keep Verdum on bay, and you wouldn't be surprised to see a KO on this one or a stoppage. But I mean, anything can happen. I'm gonna go with the decision for this one. Gustafsson.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. I think that Gus didn't look amazing against Smith in his last fight, but I don't think his heart was in it. I think Verdum didn't look great in his last fight too. He looked okay. I mean, a little sluggish. He was rusty, but I think he's thrown in against a guy who needed some time away from the sport a little bit to kind of get his mind together and kind of find himself. So I think that Gus now probably should feel if he's at his best or at least somewhat of his best. I just see him winning by decision or even stopping Verdum. I could see that happening.
Yeah, Gustafsson. I mean, both fighters actually have fought like the best of the best, So this would be a really interesting fight. And don't dismiss Fabricio Verdum's striking skills. He has some pretty good striking skills, and he's very dangerous on the floor. So if anything can happen, if he uses jiu-jitsu against Gustafsson, he could end the fight. Most definitely. I think this is a really exciting fight, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not the co-main event. I mean, Gus is a pretty big star, and Verdum is former UFC champion. But I mean, both guys are at a crossroads. Their careers. If Gus loses, then I mean, what's the point of coming back? If Verdum loses, then I mean, it's just the end for him. So it's going to be an interesting one. So the co-main event, we got Shogun versus Little Nog, Minotauro Rogerio Nogueira. So this is a retirement fight for Lil Nog. He's already said as much, and for Shogun, this is a fight for him fighting another legend. I don't think he's really gonna fight any contenders anytime soon or anytime after this. For him, it's just fighting guys that he's fought before or another big name that's a legend. And this is one for him putting another one on his resume for a fight. And I mean, this fight could be because Nogueira could throw down, or Shogun could throw down. So what do you think about this one?
Man, I'm excited for this fight. I mean, these are two old school guys that have been around for a long time. Future Hall of Famers in my book.
For
absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
And I remember seeing Shogun in Pride days. Those were the good old days.
Yeah, and their fight in Pride was, if you ever seen it, it's freaking crazy. It's just an insane fight. So
absolutely.
So what do you think? What do you got for this?
I love Little Nog too. I mean, he's going to retire after this fight, so I want to go for Little Nog. I want him to ride off into the sunset with a big win and leaving the sport knowing that he left it in a winning way. So
of course.
I'm going to go for Little Nog. I mean, there's nothing I can say about these two guys. They've cemented their legacy, and they're legends.
Yeah, of course. I think about
anybody that follows mixed martial arts knows these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course. I mean, Lil Nog, a lot of people always said that he was in the shadow of his big brother, but I always thought that he did a lot, in his own right. I mean, he's a great fighter, and he's always showed up, and he's fought big names. He's fought some tough guys. He's fought Rumble Johnson, and that was a pretty tough fight for him. But he's always showed up, and he's always game. And Shogun, man, I mean, come on, Shogun's been some of the best fights we've ever seen.
Yeah,
and he's got some great wins. But I think if I had to go with one, I think I would love Lil Nog to go out on top. But I think I got Shogun, I think Shogun might even finish him, but I don't think it won't be anything brutal. I just see it happening. I can also see Lil Nog pulling off a submission, you know, for old time's sake. But
Yeah,
other than
both
that,
the guys are crafty.
yeah. But other than that, this fight should be great. I can see um I see Show. I'm gonna go with Shogun, but I can see Lil Nog pulling out something. This fight should be one of those legend fights that it's exciting. Makes you think of the old times
Yeah,
really makes you miss both the guys. Both guys. Hopefully Shogun keeps going, but I mean we don't know how long he has left either.
most definitely.
Now the main event, the one we've been waiting for, the Reaper, Robert Whittaker versus Darren, the Gorilla Till. I mean, this is a great fight. I mean, I know Whittaker's just coming off lost out of Adesanya, pretty bad one, and Till's coming off pretty uh, a pretty exclamative victory over Gastelum. It wasn't anything amazing, but he proved that he belongs at the top of this division. Man, this is a great fight. I think this is one of those really great contender fights, and it's also a really important fight for both guys. Darren Till's always been that guy that the UFC kind of backed up when he first came on. That this is a star that we can, have in overseas across the pond in England. And Whittaker is obviously a former champion. You know, he got beat pretty bad, and so we want to see what's there, what's left. Can he regroup? So, what do you think about this fight?
I want you to explain yourself first. Tell me what your thoughts are on
Second
this
time in a
fight.
row. Second time in a row you did this for the main event. I think physical advantages. I mean, there's really not much. I mean, the only thing that's different is the way that they stand. Whitaker likes to put a lot of weight on that front leg. Kind of keep his hands down, and Darren Till, keeps his hands very broad shoulders, legs very far apart. Because he's gonna stalk you. Um, Obviously, both guys are great strikers, very different type of strikers. Whitaker's a bit more of a boxer using front kicks, and he likes to kind of rush, but he sets up his rushes, which he didn't do against Adesanya, which hurt him. And then Till pressures you. He doesn't throw a lot, but when he throws it, it's gonna land and it's gonna land hard. Um, so I think that this fight is interesting. If we see Whitaker at 80% of himself, I can see him winning this fight by decision. It's going to be tough because Taylor's going to probably try to push him up against the cage, clinch and tire him out. But, I mean, Whitaker's really good at moving around the cage. I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of his game. He knows how to move the cage. He's a good ring general. He did it well against Romero. I mean, Romero was trying to wrestle him in that first fight, and it was tough for him to take. Same thing with Jacare. He's just really good at it. I think he has a very keen eye of where he is in the octagon. Um, and Darren Till's specialty is cutting you down and kind of imposing as well on you. Um, Obviously, both guys have been touched. Um, both guys are hitting really hard. I think Whitaker still has more power than him right now. He's been at middleweight longer. He's had more knockouts at middleweight, so I'm going to assume that's the case. But the problem is that Whitaker hasn't touched. He's been through those wars with Romero, and he's been knocked out before too a couple of times. So I don't know. It's tough. I think Whitaker's great on the ground. I think he's really underrated. He scrambles really well. Um, but if I gotta go with somebody, I think I'm gonna go with Robert Whitaker by decision. I think Darren Till is durable enough to last. It's gonna be a lot like the Wonder Boy fight, very close. There's not gonna be a lot of movement. No one's gonna land anything big. Maybe somebody will, but I think Whitaker's gonna do enough with the front kicks. He's gonna do enough to kind of avoid the pressure of Till. I think there might be a couple rounds that Till might take, maybe. But I just see Whitaker. If he's at his best, he's gonna get it done. If he does, if he's not there anymore physically or mentally, then I think Till will knock him out. But I think if it's a Whitaker who took time off, who knew he had to, I think he wins this fight. What about you?
Sounds good. I love this fight, and I love both fighters. I think they're extremely exciting fighters. How I see this fight planning out is these guys are going to measure themselves very carefully. I think it's going to be a really technical fight. It's just those little things that are going to make the difference. I do feel this fight will go to decision. I think Whittaker is very technical. He's gonna walk the octagon really carefully, make sure he stays away from those straight hands from Darren Till.
Yeah.
Because Darren Till has some heavy hands.
He sure does.
And I think this is and I'm excited for Darren Till in this division because I think he fits best in this division, to be honest, especially with his height and his reach and everything. I think he'll do good.
Mm.
But Darren Till, if you've seen some of his fights before this one, he seemed to be a little bit gun shy. I don't know if it was due to his
the stats too.
Yeah, and they've both been touched, so it's gonna be very interesting to see how they react and how they look, especially Whittaker coming out of that big loss against Adesanya. I think, and he had an injury too. I mean, I think those wars with Romero were just it was a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and then defending his belt against Adesanya, I think that was a lot too. I think they both are very great strikers. I'm gonna go with Robert Whittaker, man. Decision. I think he's gonna. I think that time off is gonna serve him good, and I think he's coming stronger. I think he's cemented in the middleweight division longer. I think. I mean, he's got a lot of power too, and I think he's gonna be able to show off for this fight.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But don't discredit Till. I mean, he can bring it, and I mean, I think he has the possibility to end the fight too. So
yeah. And
I absolutely love these two guys, and I think they're gonna put on a show, and it's gonna be a very exciting fight. I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, and I mean you're right. I mean, just like I said, the stats show that Till doesn't throw too many shots. He's not a volume striker, whereas Whittaker is. Whittaker throws a bunch of shots. He likes to do it to keep you guessing, to measure, to feint. He does a lot of that to gauge where you're at and gauge what you're gonna do. I wish he had done that more against Adesanya. I feel like his jab was landing, and like I said, Adesanya's body was really out there, and it was in the open. But I think Whittaker had a plan. He stuck to it no matter what, and it cost him. And that's okay. That happens in fights. But I think if he learns from it, and if he is there still physically and mentally after the staph infection, the Romero fights, the knee injury in the first Romero fight, and his chin can take some shots, I think Whittaker can still fight for the title for sure. I think he should get another title fight even if he wins this fight. I mean, it could be I don't know if we want to see a third fight against Romero or who else in the middleweight division has another, deserves another shot. I mean, well, let's see what happens with Zanya versus Paulo Costa. It's going to be an interesting one, but this fight's going to be good. I agree with you. I think Robert Whittaker is going to pull the W. I think Darren Till still has a lot to prove, and I still think he can still, do it. But he needs a bit more. He needs to, let go a little more. Now he can crack Whittaker with one shot and it could be over. But I mean, I just think if Whittaker's at his best, or at least better than what he's shown in this past fight, then I think he could definitely pull this one out.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention Robert Whittaker. His leg kicks are really good, and then I think he has like a whipping kick that he throws up in the air, and I really like his technique. And Darren Till, he also has a good leg kick to the body, and those little things that they can show off on this fight are gonna make the difference. I think Robert Whittaker is probably gonna look to win this by decision, but I think Darren Till is gonna try to win this by knockout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, so this is gonna be a great one. So we look forward to this one. We also look forward to some more boxing. Virgil T is gonna be fighting this weekend as well. So it's gonna be a good weekend of combat sports. Looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to this main event. I think it's gonna be a good fight for the purist. It could be a war for all we know, but as it stands right now, with the way both guys fight, we're probably going to see a chess match, and it's going to be a good one for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, this is Broad Talk, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And if you guys have any concerns or any discussions about what we said, just feel free to comment or feel free to message. We're definitely open to any open discussion about these fights, about fighters, because this is what the sport's all about. Talking about what you love and talking about what you think, and it's okay to agree to disagree because opinions are valued.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you guys, and just hit subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, make sure
And
to
we'll try to
leave a
put out more
like.
content.
Yeah, make sure to leave a like. We'll do our best. We're starting off here, so thanks for watching.